recent judicial pronouncements, sir. Now, Anish bhai, you yourself have been a great reader of this subject, and I see that you have been always also very much actively appearing before various judicial forums in income tax law. Before coming into my core topic, I just want to make some prefatory remarks. Then I will come to the itinerary which I have settled for myself. And if you will say, then we will accordingly modulate it. But just I want to briefly touch few important aspects, sir. When it comes to judicial pronouncements, as you people have been discussing it monthly basis and in very deep manner, one thing is very important. What is the role of this jurisprudence in income tax law? As far as my experience goes, and if I look in hindsight in last 15 years of my experience, I can say with humbleness and humility that income tax law is partly governed by definitely provisions of the act, but it is somewhere primordially or predominantly dominated by the jurisprudence, judge-made law. So, and that judge-made law covers Supreme Court rulings, honorable Supreme Court rulings also, honorable apex court rulings, honorable high court orders, and honorable tribunal benches orders. And I believe when it comes to judicial precedent, it is very important, and every one of us would be aware. I don't want to waste time on that. Just I would say one line that judicial precedent has some importance, and I want to start, Anish bhai, with a quote which I thought I should recite and I should just repeat, if you permit me, of Benjamin Cardozo sahab. Now, what he says, Benjamin Cardozo, who was a United States Supreme Court judge, he says, the judge, I quote, the judge, even when he is free, is not wholly free. He is not to innovate at the pleasure. Now, this is a very important lines. He is not a knight errant roaming at will in pursuit of his own ideal of beauty or of goodness. He is to draw his inspiration from consecrated principles, sir. Consecrated, I believe, time settled principles. He is not to yield to spasmodic sentiment, comma, to vague and unregulated benevolence. He is to exercise a discretion, sir, informed by tradition, methodized by analogy, disciplined by system, and subordinated to the primordial necessity of order in the social life. Wide enough in all, conscience is the field of discretion that remains, sir. So I believe these words of Benjamin Cardozo, that how a judge should deal himself when he sees the precedents laid down by some other judge or some other courts. I believe he's not as Mr. Cardozo rightly says, that he's not a knight errant roaming at will in pursuit of his own beauty of goodness. This is a classical lines. I believe this sets the tone of my program. And I want to also cite, with due permission, sir, there has been a landmark order of the Honorable Supreme Court, although it was not in context of, sir, income tax law, but it was in context of some CRPC. But it has a serious role to play in my dialogue today. That is in the case titled as, sir, one can note, S. Kasi versus State, Madras State. S. Kasi, as for, you can say, as for South Kasi, S. Kasi versus State. Now, this is an order of the Honorable Supreme Court dated, sir, 19th June 2020. 19th June 2020. It is not reported to my knowledge in ITR, maybe reported in SCC. The date of the order is, Sharmaji, 19th June 2020. S. Kasi versus State, Honorable Supreme Court of India, 3-judge bench order. Now, Anish bhai, this is one decision where Justice Ashok Bhushan Saab, his lordship, speaking for the 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court. Now, there is a word which captures my attention, which I want to also bring before my viewers, learned viewers and erudite viewers. That he says it was a case, sir, where one bench of the Madras High Court took one view on a subject, and other bench subsequently in a very successive fashion took a diametrically opposite view without judicial decorum. Now, 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court, sir, highlighted one principle, Anish bhai, which I believe, with due respect, has to be now taken on board. Now, that is committee of courts, the principle of committee of courts. Now, I was, frankly speaking, before this judgment, I was not knowing what is the concept of judicial committee or a committee of courts. I learned it from this Justice Bhushan's order. Now, when I go on to black law, and black law tells us what is judicial committee. Judicial committee means when you respect somebody other's view, give respect to others' view. So I believe what Mr. Cardozo, Benjamin Cardozo spoke on these words of wisdom, and what Justice Ashok Bhushan Saab, our present Supreme Court judge, stated in this SCASI's order on judicial committee. I believe, Anish bhai, I can't say, I'm nobody to say what is the index of judicial committee, but somehow I feel somewhere, Anish ji, that this principle of committee of courts is not healthily followed, at least in some situations. In some situations, that is how I can put it in most chaste words. So that is how I look at it. Jurisprudence is not something like this. And anyhow, stare decisis is the concept which our jurisprudence we have been following. Stare decisis is known to everyone. Stare decisis means look with consistency. Now, stare decisis is something, a constitutional cherished norm in our jurisprudence. It cannot be like this, that supposingly Anish bhai case goes to one court in tribunal bench, he takes one view and other bench pleasurely takes an absolute different view without going to special bench and without following the judicial decorum, which Justice Ashok Bhushan Saab also said. So anyhow, I wanted to spoke these two things, sir, because I felt somewhere that these two values, what Mr. Cardozo said and what Mr. Justice Ashok Bhushan Saab said, are of immense importance. Now, keeping this in mind, I also want to take the other point of view on board, that it is when we read a judgment, we all know that ratio of a ruling, sir, all of us are aware, matured people and experienced people, that how to read a judgment, we need to see the two parts of the judgment. One part is the ratio decidendi, another part is the obiter dicta. Now, the precedential value, Sharma ji, is of the ratio decidendi. It is not of the obiter dicta. Obiter dicta has a persuasive value and ratio decidendi constitutes the binding element of the judgment, sir, Anish bhai. So, I have been speaking in so many forums, and you also know that this thing, same thing, that when you read a precedent and when you have to find out truly and genuinely, objectively, what is the ratio decidendi of a judgment, it is a very, sometimes it is a stellar task, because to find out what constitutes the ratio is itself a very important part of our jurisprudence theory and jurisprudence understanding, sir. So I believe this all of us are aware that when we look to a judgment and when we look to a judicial pronouncement or a precedent, we have to look for a ratio, sir. And ratio, if I summarize, Anish bhai, in one line, you correct me if I'm wrong, that it can be culled out from five components of a judgment have to be kept in mind. 5 components. One is the foundational facts of a case. Second is the rival contentions of the parties before the concerned court. That is the argument of plaintiff and respondent, or you say the petitioner and the respondent. Third part is the issue before consideration for the court. Fourth part is the analysis and reasoning of the court, sir. And final part is their conclusion. Now, if you coalesce, if you dovetail all these 5 things, number 1, foundational facts. Number 2, rival contentions. Number 3, issue for consideration before the court. Number 5, the analysis and reasoning of the court. And number 5, sir, the ultimate conclusion. Ultimate conclusion is not the ratio, to my view, sir, humble view. It can never be. So if I have to, as a student of law, if I have to get a ratio, sir, what is the ratio of an order? If I segregate a judgment in these 5 parts and then I give it a composite understanding, I believe we will be able to have a safe view what constitutes the ratio of that order. Correct me if I am wrong, sir.
That's correct.
So I believe before reading a judgment, we have to find out what is the ratio of that order and how obiter dicta is distinguishable from the same. And definitely we have various places where Supreme Court keeps dismissing SLP. Now, this is a very settled law, sir. Mere SLP dismissal has no binding force, and we all know it. Unless there is some reasoning in that and there is some law laid down in terms of Article 141. The word used in Article 141 is law laid down. So we have to find out the law laid down in a precedent to give it a precedential value, sir. So I have 2 points, sir. One, committee of courts, one, stare decisis, one, this judicial consistency, and this point of how to read a precedent. With this prefatory remarks, sir, I think Anish, by income tax law, as we were just is predominantly governed by judge made law, and I see many things like section 68 itself. If I talk about section 68, which is one of my favorite, or 148, I feel that lot many things are not stated in the statute, they are stated in the judgments, and without taking help aid of judgments, it is very difficult to keep the point in view. So definitely facts play their own role, foundational facts. In prophetic words, foundational facts have their importance. But unless you, what proposition you want to canvass is supported by some judicial pronouncement, that weightage does not comes into the picture, sir. Anyhow, that is one part of the situation. Judgments today, which we are discussing, sir, if you permit me, I will share my screen. Am I sharing my screen, sir, now?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is the itinerary, Anish, by which I have settled for myself. Now, in this itinerary, there are 19 items. I don't know, I'm doubtful whether how much I will be able to cover, sir. Now, there are so many important judgments which have come, and maybe, please pardon me, Anish Bhai, if your people have discussed these judgments on earlier occasion.
No, it's fine. Please go ahead. So, there's always a different perspective to be gained. So please go ahead as you have, kind of decided to go ahead. No problem.
Yeah, so kind of you, sir. So kind of you. I'm really beholden to you, sir. See, I have, sir, kept first judgment of the Supreme Court in the case of this state of UP versus Sudhir Kumar Singh, Anish Bhai. Now, this is an order of 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court. The citation is given in this table only, sir. AR 22020 SC 5215. Now, Anishji, income tax law, and in current perspective of faceless assessments, and where a lot of faceless assessment, Anishji, has been just completed in recently, and some are in pipeline, and some may be completed till 30th June, if I'm not wrong. In those, all these assessments, sir, and in the current faceless scenario, which is now an omnibus feature of the Income Tax Act, this principle of natural justice has been analyzed by the Honorable Supreme Court, sir, in this order of 3-judge bench. Now, if you take down to this judgment, this was a judgment where the Supreme Court 3-judge bench was there, sir, and lot of arguments took place, sir, ki what is the impact of violation of principle of natural justice in a given case, Anish. Now, Justice Nariman, I'm one of my favorite judges from whom I learn a lot. So his lordship has, in this order, has analyzed 360-degree view of principle of natural justice, sir. And the perspective was this, sir, ki one side was arguing ki, sir, this was an employment law judgment. In employment law, some proceedings were launched against some employee, and some material which was never confronted, and ultimately a decision against the employee was taken. Now, sir, in this case, in this background, there was an issue before the Honorable Supreme Court that in what cases or in which cases the violation of natural justice will be treated to be fatal, and in which cases it can be pardoned off, or it can be held to be curable, or a trivial, or something which is not of a significant nature. Now, when Supreme Court posed this question to itself, the Honorable Supreme Court in this 3-judge bench order, the one side was arguing, sir, that since principle of natural justice is violated, so the underlying order should be annulled and should be quashed and should be set aside. But other side I have argued, sir, no, sir, there is no prejudice cast to the complaining party, and only because natural justice is stated to be violated will not take us here and there unless serious prejudice takes place. So, in this order, Sharma ji, the Honorable Supreme Court has very, very deeply, or what you say, succinctly or lucidly given us the principles in which it will be said कि कहां पर ये कहा जाएगा, in which cases you will say, sir, कि principle of natural justice का जो violation हुआ है, उससे सही में complaining party का कोई prejudice हो रहा है नहीं हो रहा है. So, theory of prejudice on one side, and violation of principle of natural justice is on one side. The interplay is discussed in this landmark order. I have seen in my experience, Anishji, that this order of the Supreme Court is being cited in various cases by the revenue in our cases, sir. Now, again, they say the revenue say, no, howsoever natural justice is violated, this ruling will protect and come to the rescue of the revenue. To my humble understanding, this is not a correct reading of this order, sir. In this order, as you say, I have underlined some principle, I will read. Natural justice is a flexible tool in the hands of the judiciary to reach out in fit cases to remedy injustice. The breach of audi alteram partem rule cannot by itself without more lead to the conclusion that prejudice is thereby caused. Where procedural and or substantive provisions of law embody the principle of natural justice, their infraction per se does not lead to invalidity of the orders passed. Here again, prejudice must be caused to the litigant except in case of a mandatory provision of law. Now, please note this line, sir. These are very important exceptions, except in the case of a mandatory provision of the law, which is conceived not only in individual interest, but in public interest. Anish bhai, kindly intervene. Now, what is public interest? And what is a mandatory provision? Now, if there is a mandatory provision which is in a statute for a public importance, then that cannot be waived. That cannot be given by, go by. Third point, Supreme Court says no prejudice is cast to the person complaining of the breach of natural justice, where such person does not dispute the case against him or it. I will take a pause, sir. This judgment basically says that in those cases where admitted facts are there and where there is no dispute on the facts, and where case set up by one party is accepted by the other party, and natural justice remains in formality, then natural justice violation might not be violation of natural justice might not be taken as a excuse, as a genuine ground to set aside an order. But where, Anish bhai, where there are disputed facts, where there are contentious issues, where there are rival competing contentions, and there is no admitted fact. So, in my humble opinion, when there is no admission by the assessee, and when assessee disputes the case set up by the revenue that he is not assessable, let us say under section 68, and when there is no admission by the assessee that he is to be assessed, assessee always disputes, and there is a mandatory provision also somewhere in the law which is meant for public interest purposes, then I believe, sir, violation of natural justice in the tax assessments cannot be said to be washed by this order as such, as picturized by the revenue. Anish bhai, are you with me?
I am with you, sir.
So this is an order, Anish bhai, rather I believe it goes in favor of the assessee, where if you see it objectively, dispassionately, Justice Nariman has never said that any and every violation of natural justice will not be a ground to complain. He says where it is not leading to prejudice, where there is a total admission of the facts, and where it is a formality only. But Anish bhai, let me pose a question to myself here. In context of section 144 capital B, which is the faceless assessment, which we all are now facing. Faceless assessment is now all are facing, Anish bhai. So in that section, the department has taken a very interesting interpretation, sir. They say that we will give oral hearing in the cases in which we want so. They say the competent authority will decide which are the deserving cases to be given oral hearing and personal hearing, sir. And Anish ji, today before coming to this seminar, I was just giving a dictation of a writ petition. I can just recapitulate myself because that is fresh in my mind. There was a case, sir, where 40 or 50 crore of rupees addition was proposed to be made in the income of the assessee jeweler as sales, which you say unexplained sales as unexplained cash credit. Now, assessee, when he got, Anish bhai, that show cause notice and draft order in faceless assessment, he promptly asked for video conference hearing. Now, I saw my first case where the competent authority rejected that request of the oral hearing, giving a reason, so-called reason. Now, you note this reason, that competent authority does not find the facts to be suitable for oral hearing. Sir, tell me, I say it is egregious, I say it is preposterous, or I say it is farcical. I'm sorry, I'm short of words. See, you are making an addition. Now, return income was 7 lakh of that taxpayer. Addition proposed was 40 crore, some 600 times of return income, sir. And 49 crore rupees demand. And still, Anish bhai, they feel that I do not deserve an oral hearing. Or it is at their whims and fancies and sweet pleasure.
Yeah, I think your petition, is probably, in order, because they cannot just summarily dismiss your request for a video conferencing hearing, saying that the authority does not believe the facts supported. They have to give cogent reasons on why they think that the facts are not supported.
Now let me take this point a little further, sir. kindly tell me, I am asking a question to all of us, that is it a law under 144B in the Income Tax Act, in the faceless assessment procedure, that they have this discretion? I am sorry, even if a 1 rupee addition is varied, see, it can have consequence, adverse civil consequence also, and penal and prosecution consequence also, sir. So if you are varying my return income to the prejudice of the taxpayer, sir, is it in the mouth of the revenue to say in which case they will give oral hearing, in which case they will not give? That is my question.
At a conceptual level, I believe you're right that the request for a hearing is the right of an assessee, and the assessee needs to be able to exercise that right without any fetters whatsoever. And I think that point is very well made. The only thing is, somewhere I think the scheme which has been, how do I put it, notified as part of the delegated authority of the parliament, leaves some discretion with the authority. Now that discretion, in all fairness, has to be exercised only in the most exceptional of circumstances against a taxpayer.
Right.
In all fairness, as far as possible, the discretion has to be exercised in favor of a taxpayer. In any case, I believe there is no harm in hearing an assessee for half an hour. My personal experience is they don't react at all. Sometimes they don't even switch on their video screen, right? You are talking to a blank screen for half an hour, and then they'll say, we've heard you. That's it.
I see. So Anish bhai, and let me take a third question to myself. See, I found a very interesting, how I say, this kind of disuniform practice in the faceless assessment in light of the Supreme Court ruling which we are discussing. Now, what happens is, Anish, that in some show cause notices which they are giving us, they are writing a line कि साहब आप लोगों को oral hearing चाहिए तो आप ले लीजिए. और कुछ शो कॉज नोटिस में अनीश भाई वो नहीं लिखते हैं, वो खाली छोड़ देते हैं, वहां वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग का कोई ऑप्शन नहीं होता है. तो मुझे ये समझना था अपने आप से भी कि व्हाट इज दिस प्रैक्टिस कि दैट इन सम केसेस यू सेलेक्टिवली गिव ए चांस ऑफ वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंस हियरिंग, इन सम केसेस यू आर नॉट गिविंग. व्हाट इज दिस गोइंग ऑन? And at the end of the day, now my pinnacle point, sir, see, I found various cases, and you must have also seen that they have made the addition humongous additions. I am using this phrase humongous with cautiousness, that humongous additions have been made, sir. And there they have not even issued the show cause notice. Even after questionnaire, they have finalized the assessment straightway, sir. And in many cases, Anish bhai, they have given the draft order also and show cause notice also. So what is this gap? And now if I test these 3-4 cases which I have put to myself in light of the Supreme Court order, where does it stand, sir? Are not these violation of natural justice causing prejudice to the taxpayer in faceless assessment, sir?
I believe they are. And, that's why I'm saying that in almost all cases, the taxpayer deserves a right to be heard. And, you are changing the whole concept of assessment completely, in the sense that what used to be a face-to-face process has suddenly become completely faceless.
Sir.
In these circumstances, the least you can do is facilitate it for the taxpayer by giving him video conferencing hearings, such that till he himself is comfortable with an entirely faceless environment, he should definitely be heard, if not in person, over video conference. And I see nothing wrong if that, and that is why I believe the law has the discretion in itself, that the discretion has been given to facilitate the taxpayer accepting the faceless.
And likewise, sir, and likewise, sir, show cause notice also. See, in my extreme and deepest understanding and humble understanding, Anish bhai, the quality of the show cause notice or the area of show cause notice is again something which is seriously lacking as a matter of introspection in these faceless assessments. If we examine the Supreme Court judgment which we are discussing and apply it in the context of no show cause notice issued to me, sir, then how one can say no, this assessment has not caused any prejudice to the assessee, even though I have not been issued any show cause notice. And now they say the questionnaire issued under 142(1) is at par with show cause notice. Tell me, is it right, sir?
The questionnaire is only something to elicit information. It is not. It does not have a element of at least alleging that the assessee has violated the law, right? And you need to tell somebody if he has violated the law, where and in how, in what circumstances he is violated. So I believe that the two are completely different.
So I believe, at least in my humble understanding, Anish bhai, correct me if I'm wrong, this order of the Honorable Supreme Court penned by Justice Nariman Saab in a 3-judge bench order, it never says that all principles of all cases of violation of principal natural justice are not are treated as pardoned or condoned, or it never conveys that it is case to case, at least case to case basis it has to be seen. And secondly, the basic principle that if you are treating varying my written income, then you will give me a fair chance to keep my point of view, whether in the form of show cause notice or in the form of oral hearing, sir.
Absolutely.
And this theory of prejudice has to be seen in that perspective.
Yeah.
Now, I was again Anish bhai analyzing कि कितना केसेस इतना अभी आया है हमारे नॉलेज में जहां पर इस डिसीजन को डिपार्टमेंट ने इनकम टैक्स के केसेस में साइट किया है. I found out, Anish ji, 3 cases are there which one may interestingly note. One is the famous case of Google, sir. ये पुराना केस था बेंगलोर ITT का, if you remember. वो जो जस्टिस नारीमान साहब का रॉयल्टी वाला फैसला है, मेरे ख्याल से उससे पहले का ऑर्डर था ये कर्नाटक हाई कोर्ट का.
Is that Edwards decision? Yeah.
Yes, Edwards order. ये आप सही पकड़े हैं सर. तो अभी क्या है कि ये गूगल का जो ऑर्डर था सर, ये अभी कर्नाटक हाई कोर्ट पहुंचा. तो इस ऑर्डर का मैंने बारे में लिखा है. तो इसमें ट्राइब्यूनल का कुछ ऑर्डर में ऐसा पोर्शन था जहां उन्होंने कोई ऐसा मटेरियल यूज किया था जो असेसी को नहीं बताया था, मतलब टैक्स पेयर को, अपीलेंट. तो असेसी ने हाई कोर्ट में गया तो बोला साहब ये तो प्रिंसिपल ऑफ नेचुरल जस्टिस का वायलेशन है. ऑनरेबल ITT हैज यूज्ड एंड अप्लाइड सम मटेरियल एट आवर बैक विदाउट कन्फ्रंटिंग अस फॉर आवर रिबटल. Now, Anish bhai, to my surprise, I found revenue cited this order of Sudhir Singh of Justice Nariman. Ki sahab, no, it has not caused any prejudice to the assessee. So now Karnataka High Court jettisoned and rejected this argument of the revenue. Ki no, if once a ITT is using some material, and it is Dhakeshwari Cotton Mills also saying 26 ITR 775, if I'm not wrong. Dhakeshwari Cotton Mill भी यही कहता था सर, 26 ITR पन्ना नंबर 775. तो अभी कर्नाटक हाई कोर्ट ने बोला सुधीर सिंह को डिस्टिंग्विश करते हुए कि सर नो, असेसी हैज मेड आउट ए केस फॉर वायलेशन ऑफ नेचुरल जस्टिस दैट ITT ऑर्डर व्हाइल यूजिंग सम मटेरियल व्हिच वाज नॉट कन्फ्रंटेड टू द असेसी एंड इट वाज अ मटेरियल कलेक्टेड एट द बैक ऑफ द असेसी, देन इट हैज टू बी नेसेसरीली पुट फोर्थ टू द टैक्स पेयर. नाउ दे सेट असाइड द ऑर्डर ऑफ द ITT फॉर फ्रेश कंसीडरेशन इन दिस कर्नाटक हाई कोर्ट डिसीजन ऑफ 17th April 2021. Now, this is a second order, Anish bhai, is the order which you might have discussed. I found somewhere this Bombay High Court full bench order on penalty law. This, you know ना, this ये notices बहुत सारे डिपार्टमेंट जो पेनल्टी के देता है सर. एक शर्मा जी क्या होता है, एक तरफ तो होता है कि बहुत सारे लोगों के साथ सेम व्यवहार, मतलब जिसका DNA अलग अलग भी, अनीश भाई सॉरी मैं ऐसे बोल रहा हूँ लाइटर साइड पे, और एक ऐसा अनीश जी कि जहां समान लोग हैं उनमें भी डिफरेंट बिहेवियर. ये हमारे यहाँ एक इंटरेस्टिंग फीचर है. आई एम सॉरी, ये मुझे याद दिलाता है. तो अभी क्या है, वो पेनल्टी का नोटिस चाहे कोई भी आ रहा है सर, उसको सेम जैसा नोटिस आता है. सेम जैसा मतलब समान नोटिस. उसमें चीजें जो कटनी चाहिए इरेलेवेंट वो नहीं स्ट्राइक ऑफ होती है सर. तो बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट का जो आपका गोवा बेंच है, जिसमें जस्टिस दामा शेषाद्री नायडू साहब ने ये ऑर्डर लिखा है फुल बेंच का मार्च 2021 में, तो उनके सामने भी अनीश भाई डिपार्टमेंट ने ये सुधीर सिंह का ऑर्डर साइट किया कि साहब हमने जो नोटिस दे दिया, जिसमें हमने क्या कहते हैं उसको, वेग नोटिस, मैकेनिकल नोटिस, स्टीरियोटाइप नोटिस, तो उससे कोई प्रेजुडाइज नहीं हुआ और सुधीर सिंह शुड कम टू आवर रेस्क्यू. सर इसमें बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट का फुल बेंच का एक पैराग्राफ में उन्होंने उसको ऐसा डिस्टिंग्विश किया है कि जो मैंडेटरी प्रोविजन है, जहां नोटिस दिया जाना है स्पेसिफिक नोटिस, उसको सुधीर कुमार सिंह नहीं कर पाएगा टच. आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉइंट सर?
यस.
So this is a fine distinction again, which Honorable Bombay High Court full bench jurisdictional High Court did, Justice Naidu did, that yes, if a provision of a law is there, mandatory prescription of a statute is there, then it cannot be given a go by just citing mechanically, just this relying upon Sudhir Singh in air, sir. Now, third decision, Anish bhai, is again a very important decision to note, sir. It is one of the very important decisions where department very heavily relied upon Sudhir Kumar Singh. Now, what was the fact, Anish bhai, in this case of CIT versus Janak Mehta, Madras High Court? One assessee was not communicated the reasons to believe. Now, you know, when 148 assessment, this reopening proceedings takes place, assessee has to file a written first, then he can ask for the reasons, then he can file the objection, sir, and then the objection has to be disposed, and then final assessment has to be done as per GK and drive shaft 259 ITR 19. Now, in this case, Anish ji, there was some violation of GK and drive shaft in the sense that reasons which were recorded in the 148 subsection 2 section were not communicated to the taxpayer despite request. Now, when the matter traveled to the doors of the Honorable Madras High Court, department in its appeal cited this Sudhir Kumar Singh की कहकर कि साहब हमने इसको रीजन नहीं दिया एसएससी को, तो क्या हो गया, इससे क्या प्रेजुडाइज हो गया, इससे कौन सा हेवन फॉल हो गया, सॉरी। तो मद्रास हाई कोर्ट ने अनीश भाई उनको समझाया है कि ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि अगर जीके एंड ड्राइव शिफ्ट का कोई भी पॉइंट वायोलेट होता है, चाहे वो रीजन सप्लाई नहीं किया आपने सर, चाहे मेरे ऑब्जेक्शन को डिस्पोज नहीं किया सर, चाहे ऑब्जेक्शन को एक कॉम्बो ऑर्डर से डिस्पोज कर दिया। अनीश भाई, कॉम्बो ऑर्डर आपने भी देखा होगा कभी कि असेसमेंट ऑर्डर में ही ऑब्जेक्शन डिस्पोजल होता है।
करेक्ट।
वो 2 in 1 का फार्मूला से चलता है, जैसे फिल्मों में होता है ना सर, 2 in 1। वीसीआर और वीसीपी का काम दोनों एक चीजें कर रही होती हैं, सॉरी। तो वो कहते हैं साहब इससे क्या हो गया, मतलब माय पॉइंट इज दिस कि डिपार्टमेंट्स आर्गुमेंट इज सो प्रीपोस्टरस, दे से कि इससे क्या हो गया, मतलब व्हाट प्रेजुडाइज इट हैज कॉज्ड टू द एसएससी। सर, इट इज ए वेरी सीरियस प्रेजुडाइज कि if you are reopening my case on the allegation that income has escaped assessment, then it is the assessee who has to be confronted properly with the reasons to believe, and it is the assessee whose objection have to be properly dealt with. And Sudhir Kumar Singh order cannot cure this defect, fatal defect of non-supply of reasons and this non-disposal of the objection by a speaking order, if I am not wrong, sir. And that is what Madras High Court, Anish Bhai, has written in this order. They distinguish Sudhir Kumar Singh. They say no, rather non-supply of reasons and non-disposal of objection by speaking order constitutes a serious prejudice. Are you noting my point, sir?
Yes.
Yes.
So Sharma ji, these 3 orders, Karnataka High Court, Bombay High Court and Madras High Court, I believe 3 different high courts in the country hitherto, in 3 different situations, on 3 different occasions, have distinguished Sudhir Kumar Singh to be not reliable, to be not helping the case of the department as projected otherwise. Am I with you or not, sir? So Anish Bhai, so Anish Bhai, these 3 orders I believe are of utmost importance to be noted by all our viewers. Karnataka High Court, Bombay High Court and Madras High Court, sir. And this Sudhir Kumar Singh, I was saying, you know, Anish Bhai, in one of our cases, I will give you another example of this. It will become more clear and interesting to make the charcha interesting. Point number 5. I am with your permission, Anish Bhai. Can we come to point number 5, if you permit us?
Yes, please.
Sir. This is अभी आपको विश्वास होगा कि मैं अभी ये भी बोलता हूं, क्यों बोल रहा था कि सर कि ये इसमें बहुत सारे केसेस में डिपार्टमेंट ने इसको अपना अभी साइड करना चालू कर दिया है, लेफ्ट राइट। Sir, see, Anish Bhai, this is the order. Case law number 5. This is the order, sir. This is Anand Kumar Jain's case, sir. It is reported in 432 ITR 384. You can note the citation. This is the case. 432 ITR 384. मुझे सही याद था, सर। कभी क्या होता है अनीश भाई, रट्टा मारना पड़ता है वो स्टूडेंट की तरह ना, क्या करें। 432 ITR 384 सर। Now, sir, this case, Anish ji, has one point, very important point to tell. What I want to keep to my learned viewers. ये आनंद कुमार जैन HUF का एक सर्च हुआ था सर 132 में इनकम टैक्स के अंदर, और उनका सर्च में कुछ नहीं इंक्रिमिनेटिंग मिला था, इनका अपना सर्च से। अभी इनका पैरेलल सर्च होता है इनके साथ में, जो सर्च हुआ था, सर्च का डेट मुझे याद है क्योंकि ये अंडरलाइंग एसएससी मेरे रहे हैं, मैंने ट्राइब्यूनल का ऑर्डर आर्ग्यू किया था। दैट इज व्हाई आई एम सो हैप्पीली डिस्कसिंग इट आल्सो। सो 18 नवंबर 2015 का सर्च डेट था सर। यू कैन नोट, इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, आई विल टेल फॉर अ रीजन। 18 नवंबर 2015। Now, sir, in the parallel search of one entry operator, so-called entry operator, Mr. Pradeep Kumar Jindal, department found purportedly said कि नहीं साहब हमने इनका confession ले लिया जिंदल साहब का, और जिंदल साहब ने कह दिया कि हमने जो आनंद कुमार जैन साहब को जो लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन हुआ है, एग्जाम्प्ट लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन हुआ है, वो सब एकोमोडेशन एंट्रीज हैं, लाइक ब्ला ब्ला ब्ला, यू नो। मतलब कि जब पैरेलल सर्च हुआ, although Pradeep Kumar Jindal is a separate assessee and our assessee Anand Kumar Jain group is a different assessee. Now, in the case of Jindal person, they got a statement under 132(4) confession statement, where the Mr. Jindal confessed himself to be an entry provider. Now, on the basis of that statement and other material which they found from Mr. Jindal's place, although in a parallel search, अनीश भाई इन्होंने जो हमारा असेसमेंट किया था हमारे एसएससी का 153 कैपिटल ए में आनंद कुमार जैन का, और जहां उनके सर्च में कुछ भी नहीं मिला था इंक्रिमिनेटिंग, तो उसको सारा एडिशन, सारा वो मटेरियल दूसरी सर्च का हमारे यहाँ 153 ए कैपिटल ए सेक्शन के अंदर यूज कर लिया, और हमारा सारा लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन जो हमने एग्जाम्प्ट क्लेम किया था उसको डिसअलाउ कर दिया। हम जब ट्राइब्यूनल तक पहुंचे सर, हमारे दो प्ली थे अनीश भाई इस पे डिस्कशन के लिए. वन पॉइंट वाज दिस. नाउ two issues were framed by the tribunal for opinion sir in our appeals. One, कि what is the requirement शर्मा जी of क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन ऑफ दिस मैन मिस्टर जिंदल. जब हमारा पूरा असेसमेंट ऑर्डर आनंद कुमार जैन का प्रदीप कुमार जिंदल के स्टेटमेंट के बेस पे हुआ है 132(4) के, और उसको क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन रिक्वेस्ट के बावजूद भी नहीं दिया जा रहा है. सो हाउ फार नॉन गिविंग नॉट क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन इज ए फैटल. आर यू नोटिंग माय पॉइंट सर? एंड सेकंड इशू वाज कि अभी किसी दूसरे के सर्च का मटेरियल आप एसएससी की सर्च में यूज कर सकते हैं नहीं कर सकते शर्मा जी. दैट वाज ए सेकंड इशू विदाउट 153 कैपिटल सी. आर यू नोटिंग माय पॉइंट सर? सो अभी आप क्वेश्चन ऑफ लॉ देखिए. फिर अभी मैं आपको अभी जो मैं बात बताने जा रहा था वो क्वेश्चन ऑफ लॉ जो डिपार्टमेंट ने प्रपोज किया था उससे क्लियर होगा.
Sir, if I disturb you for a minute, sir, there is a message in the chat. Okay, there are members from Tamil Nadu, Chennai, etc.
Oh, I see. I will speak in English. No problem.
Yeah, please, sir.
Definitely, sir.
Yes, sir.
Point taken.
And,
sorry.
yeah,
I apologize.
No, it's okay.
Now, sir, I was reading this Honorable Delhi High Court decision in Anand Kumar Jain HUF's case 432 ITR 384. Now, in this case, two questions were proposed in the High Court by the department in its appeal. Whether the ITET is justified in deleting the additions made on account of bogus long-term capital gain on the ground that evidence is found during the search at premises of entry provider cannot be basis for additions, making addition in assessment completed under 153A in case of beneficiary, ignoring the vital fact there was a common search conducted on the same day in both the cases of entry provider and beneficiary. Sharma ji, this is one question. Second question, Sharma ji, is Sudhir Kumar Singh. You please note whether the ITET was justified in holding that mere failure of cross examination of entry operator is a fatal when copy of statement was provided to the assessee and assessee failed to discharge the onus of providing genuineness of LTCG long term capital gain in view of apex court decision in state of UP versus Sudhir Kumar Singh, which I am discussing with you now. What High Court said in nutshell, sir, High Court rejecting department's argument says no. What now they approved this tribunal's order, which I am reading now. The relevant portion of the tribunal decision, which has been hitherto confirmed and given imprimatur by the Honorable Division Bench of the Delhi High Court, is paragraph 5. We find that the learned counsel for the assessee has, this is the paragraph of the tribunal order which my lords have approved in High Court, sir. We find that learned counsel for the assessee has drawn our attention towards relevant portion of judgment and decision of the Honorable Supreme Court of India, Honorable High Courts and various benches of the tribunal on the legal issue, on which he argued that admittedly from assessee's own premises during 132, no incriminating material was found and no adverse statement is there on record of the assessee itself, Sharma ji, under 132(4). And it is admitted fact that merely on unconfronted, now statement was not confronted, department wrongly said to High Court. Otherwise, unconfronted statement of Pradeep Kumar Jindal recorded under 132(4) of the Act in his own separate search action and basis of unconfronted material. Addition cannot be made under 153A of the Income Tax Act without recourse to mandatory and exclusive provision under the Act like 153C of the Act, which specifically covered the extent situation. I break up in two parts, sir. What tribunal held and what High Court approved now, 2 points. One, if revenue Sharma ji has to use the material which is so-called material unearthed during the parallel search, but different search, then they have to apply the procedure, mandatory procedure of 153 capital C. They cannot impromptu enter the material found from other search. Are you noting my point? Especially when that search has happened after 1st June 2015. 1st June 2015, section 153C Sharma ji was amended. Yeah. Their words pertains to and relates to were added. So the scope of section 153C has been widened after 1st June 2015. Are you noting my point, sir? So tribunal came in our favor. Yes, even if there is a parallel search, simultaneous search, but this is a different search, Sharma ji, then if that material found from other search has to be used, then provision of section 153 capital C has to be mandatorily used. If it is not used, then it is a fatal error. Are you noting my point?
Yes, sir.
And I will read for this because this is a landmark proposition to my mind, because this has been very beautifully summarized by the Honorable High Court in this very order, sir, at paragraph number this 10. Kindly allow me to read this para 10, Sharma ji. Now coming to the aspect, visually the invocation of section 153 capital A on the basis of statement recorded in search action against a third person. We may note that AO has used this statement on oath recorded in case of course of search conducted in case of a third party, that is Mr. Jindal, for making the addition in hands of assessee. Sharmaji, please note these lines. As per mandate of section 153C, if this statement was to be considered as an incriminating material belonging to or pertaining to any person, belonging to or pertaining to, now pertaining to is a very important word, Sharmaji.
Yeah.
Pertaining to a person other than person such, then only recourse available to department was to proceed in terms of section 153C by handing over the same to the AO who has jurisdiction over such other person. Here the assessment has been framed under 153 of the Act on the basis of alleged incriminating material being the statement recorded under section 132(4). As noted above, the assessee has no opportunity to cross-examine. Now, please note, High Court gave weightage to this point also, Sharmaji. Assessee has no opportunity to cross-examine the said witness, but that apart, mandatory procedure under section 153 capital C has been not followed. On this account itself, tribunal decision is approved by the Honorable Delhi High Court. So, what are the two takeaways, Sharmaji, from this order? Now, second takeaway is also very important, one which my viewers can take note of. In this order, Justice Sanjeev Narula, sir, when he was faced with this issue, the Honorable High Court was faced with this issue, whether the statement, Sharmaji, recorded under section 132 subsection 4 of the entry provider, can it be standalone basis to draw adverse inference against the other assessees? It happens many times, sir. Now, Delhi High Court in para 7 has also given a light to this point that unless that statement of the third party is corroborated by proper corroborative material, unless that statement cannot be used. Are you noting my point, sir? So two prepositions, sir. One, mandatory use of section 153 capital C in appropriate case. It cannot be bypassed. And second, evidentiary value of the statement under 132(4). I have seen lot of cases of Bombay bench of ITT, Sharmaji, where I have seen in case of addition of share capital, etc. Department has mechanically relied upon the statements of people under 132(4), etc. without giving corroborative material to that. So this order of Delhi High Court is a very important order, Sharmaji, Anand Jain HUF. For two prepositions, I am repeating who I missed. Number one, interplay of section 153 capital A with the section 153 capital C, sir. Meaning thereby 153C cannot be bypassed lightly. And second, sir, evidentiary value of the statement which is recorded under section 132 subsection 4 of the Act. Are you noting my point, sir?
Yes, sir.
And I believe these two prepositions are clear. And apart from this, cross-examination request also. Now, how we came to this order, Sharmaji, because of Supreme Court order in Sudhir Kumar Singh. Now, department very vehemently cited in the grounds itself of Sudhir Kumar Singh order before Delhi High Court. But I am telling you, sir, that Delhi High Court found it absolutely irrelevant to the issue. So this can be called as fourth order, where even though revenue cited the order of Sudhir Kumar Singh, Honorable High Court did not find it applicable to the situation beforehand. Sir, I go further to the same points. I rejoin myself on Sudhir Kumar Singh's order. We have discussed these three orders, Sharmaji, Karnataka High Court, Bombay High Court, Madras High Court, and Delhi High Court. Now, there are two important points, Sharmaji, which I want to also discuss in relation to principle of natural justice. Like in a given case study, what happens? I'm giving a case study to myself, then I will take it up with this, sir, judgment. In a case, sir, what happens? A reopening takes place under section 148. And the background of the reopening, sir, is this, that revenue alleges that assessee has taken lot of accommodation entries from various entry providing companies. Now, before 148 is done, already revenue through its investigation wing has found out that the person from whom assessee has received the share capital, they are not genuine people, they are shell companies. Now, what background was there before 148? That is the investigation wing material, where it was found, where it was recommended by investigation wing that assessee is a beneficiary of accommodation entries at large. Now, when 148 took place, sir, assessee comes to the department and requests it, sir, please confront me all this material which is referred in the reasons to believe, that is the investigation wing, relevant portion of the investigation wing report. Now, department, without supplying the ingredient of the reasons, crucial ingredient of the reasons, that is the investigation wing report, relevant extract of the investigation report, proceeds further in making the assessment. And when they make the final assessment, sir, and when assessee joins the assessment, he gives all the particulars about identity, creditworthiness, and genuineness of the shareholders. Now, while passing the final order, there is no independent inquiry made by the assessing officer from any of the shareholder. Assessing officer in the assessment order merely writes that since investigation wing has found these share applicants to be non-credit worthy and not capable of giving this share application money, so the AO is making the addition under 148 assessment. I raise a two question to myself, sir, here, and even no cross-examination is offered of that person whose statements they are relied in the reasons to believe. So the question which arises here is, sir, what is the duty of the assessing officer in making the independent inquiries? And what is the duty of the assessing officer in supplying to the assessee the background material, which is the basis of 148, ultimate basis of reasons to believe? Mere saying that no investigation wing has referred, is it a sufficient communication to the assessee, sir? So I believe there are two important decisions of the ITAT which one must read, sir. In every case where 148 is done, allegation of accommodation entry is there, and various back material is referred in the reasons to believe. One is the decision of Honorable Indoor Bench of ITAT Ariba Foods Limited, 11 January 2021. Now, in this decision of the tribunal, sir, this was a decision of the bench consisting of Honorable President of the ITAT Bhatt Saab. The author of the order is Honorable AM Sir Manish Borarji. Now, in this order of division bench of the Honorable Coordinate Bench of the ITAT Ariba Foods, a reference is drawn to the Ahmedabad bench decision of EI Deredo. Now, what was EI Deredo and how Indore bench appreciated? Both are very important for principle of natural justice, which we are discussing, sir. Indore bench refers to EI Deredo, sir. I have shared the screen for this, and in that order of Ahmedabad bench, it is quoted. In other words, where AO wants to rely on the statement of a witness, such as statement of entry operator recorded by investigation wing, to hold that share application money received by the assessee is not genuine, but is only an accommodation entry, then he has to provide copy of such statement to the assessee. Where the AO does not provide the copy of the statement of the witness, then it is violation of natural justice and addition cannot be made on the basis of such statement is to be deleted. Then the Honorable Indore bench further refers to it and also holds, sir, if an assessee requests for cross-examination for this person, then AO, now you see, I read from para 21, we find that recently the Coordinate D bench of Ahmedabad has held that if AO intends to rely for the purpose of making addition to the total income of the assessee on the basis of statement of third party as a witness, then he has to summon such witness, number one. First, he has to again call that witness, then he has to again record his statement and offer that witness for cross-examination, sir. In my humblest understanding, sir, when investigation wing collects the material and when investigation wing refers that material to the AO, recommends for 148 action, reopening action, then in my humble experience, I have never seen that AO himself going for examination and calling that person for examination and recording of his statement. And when we ask its copy of statement and when we ask for cross-examination, that is seldomly provided. Now, these decisions, two decisions of the Honorable Coordinate Benches of the ITAT Indore bench and this second Ahmedabad bench in case of EI Deredo and Ariba Foods. Now, these two decisions clearly say if there is violation of natural justice in the sense that back material referred by in the assessment is not confronted to the assessee or the requested cross-examination is not given, then assessment will be quashed and no second innings will be given to the revenue. And for that, Honorable bench has referred to this order of Honorable Gujarat High Court. My viewers can note that many times for violation of natural justice, the revenue has a request that the matter can be set aside. But in this order of EI Deredo, the Honorable Coordinate Bench of the ITAT, after considering this contention of the department that set aside should be made or remand back should be made, they say no second innings will be given. And for this, I just highlight one portion of this order, sir, where they have referred one Gujarat High Court order, and my viewers can note the citation. I have got it also. The Gujarat High Court order that no second innings can be given. for lapse of the AO in the first place. Sir, this is the citation of Honorable Gujarat High Court that no second innings can be given for lapse of the revenue at the first place. That is citation is 251 ITR 541. 251 ITR page 541. So I was just telling the landmark points in these two ITAT orders in context of violation of natural justice. Sir, I will repeat. One, if requested back material is not confronted to the assessee, then assessment has to, then that material has to be excluded. And if there is no other material, then assessment has to be quashed. Second, if the statement of a person is not offered, tested on the terra firma of cross-examination, principle of cross-examination, then that evident, then that statement again has to be excluded from consideration. That was ruling of Supreme Court in Andaman Timber Industries also, and there are many other orders. But there can be no second innings provided. That is what ITAT observes in this EI Dorado. Third point, they have beautifully come out that if there is some back material which is collected by the investigation wing and then given to the AO, then AO must make independent probe, independent inquiry. AO cannot rest his contentment with the investigation done by the investigation wing, and then just based on that, solely based on that investigation wing reference, the assessment cannot be concluded. There has to be a fair and independent probe. And that fair probe and independent probe can only happen, sir, when independent inquiry is made. An independent inquiry concept is given under the Income Tax Act as applied by tribunal in various orders in section 142, subsection 2 and 142, subsection 3. So all these varieties of natural justice violations, sir, which we have discussed, not giving back material, not offering cross-examination, not making independent inquiry, just relying upon investigation wing, will not be pardoned by Sudhir Kumar Singh, in my humble opinion. Rather, they are cases of real prejudice. They are cases of actual prejudice and serious prejudice. Because had those back material been confronted to the assessee validly, lawfully, adequately, then maybe addition would not have been made, is my humble take. So it cannot be presumed. It cannot be a matter of a foregone conclusion that what would have differently happened had principle of natural justice been complied with. I would say to that, a lot of different things would have happened, sir, had principle of natural justice been properly complied with. So, sir, I have discussed one aspect of the order of this one decision of the Supreme Court along with Delhi High Court in Anand Kumar Jain HUF case. So two decisions we have covered, sir. Now I come to the second decision of my Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court order. To my mind, this is again one of the very landmark orders in the taxation, in the landscape of taxation jurisprudence. Now, this is the order of Radha Krishna Industries. I straightway come to this order in my presentation. It is now here. Now, there are four important bullets my viewers can see which this decision discuss. One is the scope of Article 226 writ petition in tax matters. Second is the criteria to form the opinion for provisional attachment on part of competent authority under GST Act. Third is very important, again, principle of natural justice, that is filing of the written objection before the authority and hearing before the authority, oral hearing. And final point, change of opinion and review power, whether to be inferred. Before discussing this order of the Supreme Court, sir, I will just give my viewers a brief background of the judgment. Now, in this case, GST Act was involved, Himachal Pradesh GST Act, Section 83, provisional attachment. Now, when the provisional attachment took place in the case of this Radha Krishna Industries, it filed a writ petition challenging the action of the competent authority to make provisional attachment under Article 226 before the High Court of Himachal Pradesh, Honorable High Court of Himachal Pradesh. In that, assessee did not get any luck, and his assessee's writ petition was dismissed because Honorable High Court was of the viewpoint that assessee has an alternate remedy, and assessee should go to the statutory alternate remedy, and assessee should not come in extraordinary writ jurisdiction. Now, when that order of the Honorable High Court of Himachal Pradesh went up to Supreme Court, now this landmark order came from the Supreme Court over that under Himachal Pradesh High Court decision, where Supreme Court has nullified that order, so reversed that order, and has accepted the writ petition of the Himachal, this Radhakrishnan Industries, saying that when an action of a competent authority is jurisdictionally flawed means that there is lack of jurisdictional fact about that action which is taken, then the writ petition can be filed directly, even though there is alternate remedy. Assessee cannot be thrown to alternate remedy just because of the fact that there is alternate remedy, because Supreme Court says that if there is a lack of fulfillment of jurisdictional fact, there is a lack of fulfillment of a jurisdictional prerequisite, there is a lack of fulfillment of jurisdictional criteria, then the action of the concerned authority can be complained and agitated directly in the extraordinary writ petition under Article 226. Sir. And while holding so, the Honorable Supreme Court, speaking through Justice Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud Saab, has very beautifully, sir, laid down these important principles. What are the governing principles of filing of writ petition in the tax matters? Now one can see, if one comes to this, speaks into this, looks into paragraph 27, the principles of law which emerge are that power under Article 226 of the Constitution to issue writs can be exercised not only for the enforcement of the fundamental rights, but also for any other purpose. Any other purpose means any other statutory right also. The High Court has the discretion not to entertain a writ petition. On one of the restrictions placed on the power of the High Court is where an effective remedy is available to the aggrieved person. Exceptions to the now this is very important part. Now this third part is most important to our discussion, sir. Exceptions to the rule of alternate remedy arise where the writ petition has been filed for the enforcement of fundamental right. Second, where there is violation of natural justice or where the order or proceedings are wholly without jurisdiction. I am focusing on these 2 points, that there has been violation of principle of natural justice. C, order is without jurisdiction. Sir, where we are challenging the faceless tax assessment directly before the Honorable High Court in Article 226, I believe, and when the ground taken in the petition is violation of natural justice, I believe the revenue cannot say that no, assessee should be asked to go to the alternate remedy. Writ petition is maintainable wherever there is an violation of principle of natural justice, sir. Accordingly, additionally, if there is violation of some jurisdiction also, let us say notice under section 148 is not properly issued and served. 148 notice is issued to a dead person. Assessment is framed on a dead person. All these are conditions where jurisdictional lapses are there. Reasons to believe are not properly recorded. Approval under section 151 is not properly taken. So, in my humble opinion, this order of Honorable Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud Saab explaining the exception to alternate remedy route is very important. Meaning, for me, 2 things are takeaways, sir, here. Where in a tax assessment, natural justice principle is violated, assessee can directly go in writ petition before the Honorable High Court. Second, where there is any violation or breach of some jurisdictional condition or jurisdictional fact, then also the assessee can directly go to the Honorable High Court in writ petition, sir. So I believe these are of wide, these observations and these holdings of the Honorable Supreme Court will go a long way to bring justice, much needed justice to the assessee, sir. Another part of the ruling, sir, which I want to discuss in the Supreme Court order is that there was a word opinion written in section 83 of Himachal Pradesh GST Act. Now, word opinion one can find in lot of provisions in the Income Tax Act 1961 also. Now, what should be the quality of an opinion to be formulated by a competent authority came up for consideration in this order by the Supreme Court. Whether opinion can be at the ipse dixit and sweet will of the authority, or opinion has to be formulated on basis of some tangible material is the question which my lords posed for themselves, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud Saab. Now, in this order, Supreme Court applying 2 income tax orders, 2 income tax decisions have been taken help of. One, Calvinator's case, my various friends will be aware, there are 2 important Supreme Court decisions on section 148 in income tax law. Calvinator's case and Taxpen's case. There are 2 decisions, 320 ITR 561 and 404 ITR page number 10. 2 decisions have been applied by Supreme Court here. One is Calvinator 320 ITR 561, and second TaxPen Limited 404 ITR page number 10. Applying those help of those income tax rulings in section 83 of GST Act, the Honorable Supreme Court says, sir, opinion means opinion based on tangible material before any power of provisional attachment is taken recourse to. So this tangible material doctrine applied for tangible material requirement held to be must for forming a valid opinion is of again wider use. I was saying there are various provisions in the Income Tax Act which uses the phrase opinion. Now this judgment again, to my humble understanding, has a very mass use. Wherever in the legislation opinion word is used, and especially that opinion is hashed by some jurisdictional condition, then that opinion has to be based on tangible material. Two provisions comes to my mind in Income Tax Act where opinion word is used. My friends can note section 263 explanation, which power deals with the power of CIT to revise an order. Section 263. And second, section 241 capital A, power to withhold and block the refund, tax refund of the income tax to the assessee. Now in these two provisions, my viewers can note that word opinion and phrase opinion is used, which can be also interpreted by Honorable Supreme Court in this Radhakrishna Industries. And I see lot of refunds are blocked in section 241A, but there is no proper opinion formulated if we apply the parameters given in this order of Supreme Court. Likewise, I see lot of show cause notices issued under 263 in the explanation 2 to section 263, but the quality of opinion is not that deserving as it should be, sir. The last part of this order, which is very important, again, it's an order which contains host of preposition Radhakrishna Industries. This I discussed two preposition. One, I discussed about writ petition. Second, about opinion formation. Third is change of opinion. Now, in this case, Radhakrishna Industries, once when a provisional attachment was sought to be done, it was dropped. Again, it was activated by some other officer on the same facts. So, Honorable Supreme Court frowned, came down heavily that what is this happening? It's a classical case of change of opinion and review by the same authority. So once having taken a decision to drop the proceedings, now again reactivating the proceedings, the Honorable Supreme Court says it is absolutely wrong, incorrect, unlawful, unconstitutional. And on natural justice also, the Supreme Court says that if a rule requires both written representation and oral hearing, both have to be given. It cannot be the case of the commissioner competent authority that just because written representation is taken, need of oral hearing goes away. That is also a judgment, part of a judgment in this case, sir. So I believe, Sharmaji, this is a landmark order. Our viewers can be, I believe this order of Radhakrishna Industries has serious implications on the faceless assessment. In my research, I was viewing, there are 3 Bombay High Court orders, and there have many more which have been interim orders have been passed, where Honorable Bombay High Court has admitted direct writ petition against the faceless tax assessment. Some are done by the bench of Justice, Honorable Justice S.P. Deshmukh Saab, and some are done by the vacation bench now, K.K. Tated Saab and Ms. Dhanuka Saab. So now Bombay High Court, in my opinion, in my humble understanding, in 12 matters, has admitted the writ petitions filed against the faceless tax assessments. And to my happiness, I see Sharmaji, one of my good friend, Mr. Devendra Jain, has been the counsel in those cases where Honorable Bombay High Court has admitted lot of writ petitions of various taxpayers against the assessment orders framed under 144B, that is faceless assessment scheme. And the ground which has been taken in all those cases majoritarily is the natural justice violation, sir. I have seen the order of Justice Dhanuka. I have seen the order of Justice K.K. Tated. I have seen the orders of Justice Deshmukh Saab. But moot point is this, that various high courts in the country now have, have taken cognizance of this faceless tax assessment, Sharmaji, being made in blatant violation of natural justice. I believe you have also had a session on faceless assessment last month somewhere.
Yes, sir.
So, to my end, acha, now what is latest which I want to share here? Maybe that has not come up for consideration or discussion in your seminars. You can note 2 important points I want to spotlight. One, there has been an issue, Sharmaji, in faceless tax assessment that supposedly an assessee of Bombay His faceless assessment is done. Now the order is passed by National E-Assessment Center, Delhi, National Faceless Assessment Center, Delhi. Now that assessee of Bombay, can he file the writ petition in Delhi High Court? Or whether he has choice to file the writ petition in Delhi or Bombay? This is the moot point which I want to raise to my learned viewers. Now Delhi High Court first decision on the subject has come on this, sir. RKKR Foundation versus National Faceless Assessment Center, RKKR Foundation order of Delhi High Court, where Honorable Delhi High Court has said that anybody from anywhere in India, sir, can file writ petition in Delhi High Court because seat of National Faceless Assessment Center, Sharmaji, is at Delhi. Are you getting my point? Respondent is at Delhi. So Delhi High Court decision in RKKR Foundation versus National Faceless Assessment Center, Delhi, 17th May 2021. This is the order. 17th May 2021. Second thing, Sharma ji, which I want to highlight to my viewers is, एक तो ये वाला बड़ा important point निकल के आया है अभी सर, कि कोई भी एसएससी इंडिया में, sorry, मतलब any SSC from anywhere in India, some friend of Madras are there. So let us say Madras SSC is there. He can also file a writ petition in Delhi. That is the view taken by Delhi High Court in one of the decision, RKKR Foundation. That is what I want to say. Second, sir, Delhi High Court on 19th May 2021, my viewers can note this order. Many will not be aware, might not be aware. 19th May 2021 is the date of this order of Delhi High Court. It's a final order. It's not an interim order. It is in the case of Renew Power versus National Assessment Center, National E-Assessment Center, Renew Power. Now in this order, Sharma ji, of National, this Renew Power, if one goes to the judgment, the department took two important arguments. That one argument was that, sir, principle of natural justice is violated. So assessee, even if natural justice is violated, assessee should be thrown to relegated to alternate remedy. Delhi High Court says no. If natural justice is violated, then writ is maintainable under Article 226 against the final tax assessment order. No alternate remedy point. And secondly, as department said, Sharma ji, that choice to give discretion to give oral hearing is purely with the department. That argument has also been rejected by the High Court in Renew Power case. So Renew Power, 19th May 2021 Delhi High Court order, and this RKKR Foundation 17th May order. These two Delhi High Court decision of 17th May and 19th May of this month again brings the subject to different dockets, sir. I'm sorry, my screen sharing has gone somewhere. Just a minute, sir. My screen sharing has come, Sharma ji?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, it has come.
So I believe my viewers have noted these two Delhi High Court latest orders. One in the case of RKKR Foundation on jurisdiction point, territorial jurisdiction point, and second of this this Delhi High Court in case of Renew Power on violation of natural justice and maintainability of writ petition. So, sir, Sharma ji, we have discussed a long about now principles of natural justice and these two Supreme Court orders. I now want to switch over to this third order of the Eternary, sir, if you permit me.
Yeah.
This is the decision of the Honorable Delhi High Court in case of Symphonia Limited versus ITO, dated 26 March 2021. Before, sir, I start this order, I just want to make few highlights. Sir, there have been lot of cases which have been reopened in this season. Some are reopened and some are in the process of reopening. And there are a lot of cases which have been reopened, which we all know. I have myself conducted 12 seminars on Section 148 in last 1 month, sir. And there has been also a lot of confusion going on. What comes in old provision and what comes in new provision. Sharma ji, you are noting it.
Yes, sir.
Some representation has to go from your side. Sorry, I am giving a request to you, sir. That what is this happening? That when new provisions of 148 have been enforced, have been made operative, still we are receiving the notices in the old regime, although that date has been extended by notification. But how is it happening that two parallel mode of 148 are in place as on date? Old regime is also going on and new regime is also going on. Are you noting my point? So when we get these notices under 148, sir, they are issued under old law, but the revenue says since we have extended the time limitation due to COVID to 30th June, so these are the notices issued under old law. But I am having a question to myself, Sharma ji, ki when a new law has already been enacted by the parliament, given assent by the president, and it is fully operative now, so how come it is happening that new law is also functional and old law is also parallelly operating? Are you noting my suggestion, sir?
Yes, sir.
So this should be raked up to the Central Board of Direct Taxes. That is how if you feel it worthy and deserving, then you may.
Yeah, it is a big question, sir. Everybody is debating that.
So we may escalate.
Yes, 148A, whether this order needs to be filed in old cases also.
So my opinion is this: there cannot be, ek saath do, you cannot walk in two boats parallelly. That is how I look at it. Two horses. You cannot ride on two horses like that. Yeah. So anyhow, that is one part of the question, sir. Second part of the question, Sharma ji, is this: that lot of reopening is taken place in this year because of the change in the law. Maybe in the new law, when the reopening will take place, that they might not go beyond 3 years unless income escaping assessment exceeds 50 lakh rupees. So there are a lot of years which are being reopened in this season of reopening. I believe 5 years are taken up: 13, 14, 14, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17, and 17, 18. These are the 5 assessment years which we see are reopened in this season of reopening, sir. So I just want to articulate and highlight that when so many 148 notices are issued in bulk manner, what kind of quality of application of mine has been gone into by the authority concerned who has recorded its reasons under 148 subsection 2A, and what kind of application of mine has gone on the part of the authority who has given the approvals and sanctions to those notices and reasons. Now I want to specifically focus on 2 provisions of the reopening law. One, section 148 subsection 2, and second, the provision dealing with sanction and approval of reopening notice, that is 151. So these 2 provisions, I believe, are of primordial and pivotal significance whenever it concerns any 148, sir. 148 subsection 2 and section 151. Now in this Honorable Delhi High Court decision, coming back to it, the fact was like this, sir. A reopening was made. Allegation was against the assessee that he is a recipient of accommodation entries of certain share capital of amount 27 or odd lakhs, something around 25, 28 lakhs. Allegation was assessee is beneficiary of accommodation entry to the tune of 25, 30 lakh, and they are on account of share capital. And that is again propelled due to the investigation wing information coming to the AO, and AO coming to his belief that assessee income has escaped assessment under section 148. Now, when in this background reopening was done, assessee when challenged this reopening to the High Court, I just want to show this order's importance. I just want to go to the decision and revenues arguments in this case before the High Court. That will sharpen the discussion more. This is the argument of the department revenue side, which I believe will help us to cull out the ratio of the order. Now, departments are in this arguments before the High Court said ki no, sir, this reopening is absolutely valid because investigation wing has done some investigation and find out that assessee is a beneficiary of accommodation entry. And again, that same Pradeep Kumar Jindal was referred that he is the person behind the assessee to be a beneficiary of the accommodation entries. So that was the argument of the revenue to the High Court, that since investigation wing information has come and since investigation wing has found out that one entry operator is behind the entries being provided to the taxpayer, so action of the department under section 148 is justified and it should be upheld and no interference be made. There are 2 collateral arguments also which department sought to make before the High Court, which High Court ultimately, Honorable High Court, Delhi High Court ultimately rejected. One, that why not assessee is being again relegated to the alternate statutory remedy. And second, that the revenue started supplementing or modifying or improvising the reasons to believe. Now these 2 attempts of the revenue have been, this attempt of the revenue has been seriously rejected by the High Court, that nowhere it will be tolerated that revenue improvises the reasons which are otherwise recorded under section 148 subsection 2, meaning thereby validity of reopening has to be judged strictly in light of the reasons which are referred and recorded under section 148 subsection 2 of the Income Tax Act 1961. So permission to go beyond the reasons was denied, and assessee's writ petition was also held to be maintainable under Article 226, because Honorable High Court felt that where there is a jurisdictional error, then assessee can approach the writ court under Article 226. These are the two important ratios to be noted, sir. Now, coming to reasons to believe, validity of the reopening and quality of the application of mind on the part of the authority who recorded the reasons, and the quality of application of the mind on the part of the authority who happened to give the sanction and approval to this instant reopening are two important focus points. Now, Honorable High Court, my friends, in this para 9, again, to my mind, it's a landmark order. This is not an order where you just find a discussion on the facts of the case and you find that case to be decided as such. But this is a case, to my understanding, an exception, where the Honorable Judge Justice Sikdar Saab has taken a lot of pains and then come out with 6 or 7 important principles which should guide the revenue authorities in any action of 140. Now, these are the 6 important principles. I will read it because they are of utmost importance and having mass implication. 1, the reasons which led to the formation of opinion or belief that assessee's income chargeable to tax has escaped assessment should be inextricably connected. In other words, the reasons for formation of opinion should have a rational connection with formation of belief that there is an escapement of income. Now, they refer to this landmark judgment of, we all know, Lakhmani Mewal Das, 103 ITR 437. Second principle which the Honorable Delhi High Court says in this order, friends, is the expression reason to believe is stronger than the word satisfied. The belief should be based on material which is relevant material and which is cogent material. Again, they refer to a Supreme Court order in case of Ganga Saran, 130 ITR page 1. Next point, the assessing officer should have reasons to believe that taxable income has escaped assessment. Now, this is a very important line. I believe majority of the cases which revenue has reopened, this is my personal understanding, they fall in the category of suspicion zone. They are not elevated to the zone of belief. So the process of reassessment cannot be triggered based on a mere suspect. The expression reason to believe does not have the same meaning as the word reason to suspect. The order recording the reason should fill this chasm. Now, this is a chasm which should be filled. The material brought to the knowledge of the AO should have nexus with the formation of belief that taxable income of the assessee has escaped assessment. The link being the reasons recorded in that behalf by the assessing officer. The AO is mandatorily obliged to record reasons under section 148 subsection 1 as per 148 subsection 2 of the Act. Then they say approval has to be taken under section 151 from the competent approving authority. Last line, they say, 5th point, the limitation for issue of notice as prescribed under section 149 gives the date for issuance of its commences from the date of its issuance, while the time limit of passing the order starts with date of service of the notice. Now, 6th point is also very important. A jurisdictional error would occur, which can be corrected by a writ court if reasons to believe are based on grounds which are arbitrary grounds, which are irrational grounds. So, these are the 6 important, helping principles, sir, which the Honorable Delhi High Court has culled out from the survey of various important Supreme Court orders, Lakhmani Mewal Das, Ganga Saran, Calcutta Discount, Shivnath Singh, all these, many of the Supreme Court orders you are aware, but this order captures all these at one place in para 9. Now, when they come to the core reasons in this case, the defect which the Honorable High Court found in the reason was that the nature of transaction which was spoken in the reasons and the nature of transaction actual was different. High Court said that no, when assessee, it is clear from the balance sheet, it is clear from the audited accounts that assessee has not raised any share capital, and still AO has said that the assessee has received accommodation entry in the form of share capital, whereas it was unsecured loans. Then Honorable Delhi High Court says it is a grossly non-application of mind, incorrect application of mind based on non-existing reasons. When balance sheet on the record of the revenue already stated that no share capital is there and it is unsecured loan, then how a department and the AO in the reasons to believe contrarily allege that assessee's income has escaped assessment due to taking of share capital. This is how the Honorable High Court came down heavily on this reopening, sir. Then they say that incorrect recording of the facts in the reasons to believe by the assessing officer cannot be pardoned. It cannot be like this that revenue can say, this is an inadvertent error, innocuous error, silly mistake, or a curable error if some important fact is wrongly recorded in the reasons to believe. High Court has said nothing doing. If you have recorded the wrong fact, which is a vital fact, then entire reopening will be vulnerable or vitiated by non-application of mine. Proceeding further, they say this concept of inadvertent error cannot be so applied in the reasons to believe in reopening. And then they say, no, assessing officer has to properly describe the proper nature of the transaction in the reasons to believe. And ultimately, when they came down to the quality of the opinion formulation, they also say that mere reference to that investigation wing has inquired and has found out, then it is not the good enough. AO himself, in his own words, should try to come out that what investigation wing has sent to him and how AO has concerned, has interpreted it, and how that is applicable to the facts in hand. Just writing and just citing that AO investigation wing has said something, that does not mean that AO has applied his mind. I can show this paragraph to my viewers because this is also a very important finding of this order, sir. Before we conclude, I am reading from here, sir. Before we conclude, we must also indicate that the order recording reasons neither discusses the contents of the report which is received from the investigation wing or the statements made by Mr. Pradeep Kumar Jindal and his associates. The order recording reasons merely indicates that formation of belief is based on these sources. Furthermore, although there is a reference to one Mr. Satyapal and Mr. Mishra of the counter affidavit of the department as persons whose statement were also recorded during search, which formed the basis of proceeding under section 147 of the act. There is no reference to all these things which are stated in counter affidavit in the reasons recorded. That is, High Court says you cannot go beyond reasons. Then this is also a very important part, although they have not given the decision on this, but they have highlighted a very important feature of these 148 assessments, which I was also saying. My viewers can note paragraph 11.3. Besides this, the revenue has taken the position that not only the report of the investigation wing, but also the statements of Mr. Jindal and his aforementioned associates were confronted to the tax representative of the assessee in proceedings held before the respondent department at on so and so. High Court says the proceeding sheet, that is the order sheet of 12th October 2018, which is appended with the counter affidavit of the Income Tax Department, does not refer to this fact. Therefore, High Court observes, apart from anything else, this is important line, sir, a case could have been made out of natural justice principle also. Meaning thereby, I humbly interpret like this, that this is the paragraph where Honorable High Court has also ingeminated and besieged and exhorted on the revenue authorities to supply the complete material referred in the reasons to believe, which implicates the assessee as part of requirement of communication of reasons to believe and as part of principle of natural justice. So I believe in this order, the Honorable Delhi High Court has discussed length and breadth of the jurisprudence, and then they have said that the reasons to suspect are different. Application of mind on the independent application of mind on part of reason recording authority is must, and correct facts have to be referred in the reasons. Now I come to another part of my discussion in this order, where, sir, the Honorable Delhi High Court has taken the subject of approval by the competent authority under section 151. This is para 9.8. Now my viewers are aware that in the regime which we had in the old regime or in the unamended law of section 148, the requirement was this, that if a case is reopened till 4 years from the end of the assessment year, then the competent authority to give the approval was additional commissioner, joint commissioner. If a case happens to be reopened after the end of the 4 assessment years, then the competent authority to grant approval was the principal commissioner. Now, in the changed law, we have a different norm that till 3 years in the new law, till 3 years, the approval has to be given by the commissioner, and thereafter it has to be principal chief commissioner after 3 years until 10 years in the new law. Now, I'm again coming back to the quality of the general quality of the approvals which we have sometime, and I see, and my lot of viewers would agree with me, that there are a lot of approvals where signature is there, where simply word approved is written. I have a lot of cases where yes word is written. I have a lot of cases where I am satisfied is written. Now, various benches of the Honorable ITAT are also seized of this issue, and various orders are coming. And various orders have come in last 6 months from various benches of the Honorable ITAT, which have again deprecated the practice of giving mechanical approvals and or what you say as the approval, rubber stamp approvals. Now, this order of Honorable Delhi High Court, friends, which I am discussing, that is Sinfonia case, it's again a very package order. It says reasons to believe are also wrong. It says approval was also wrong. Now, why the Honorable Judge says approval is wrong? Kindly read para 9.8. This apart, what is even more disconcerting is the fact that the respondent number 2, who accorded sanction for triggering the process under 147, simply rubber stamped the reasons furnished by the AO for issue of notice under 148. Now they remind 140 what section 151 say. They say section 151 competent authority has to satisfy himself to whether it was a fit case in which sanction should be accorded for issue of notice under 148 and thus triggering the process of reassessment under section 147. Now, in this case, sanction order passed by the competent authority simply contained the endorsement. Word approved was written in this case, approved word, friends. Now, High Court has used this, what you say, legal phrase, inscrutable face of the Sphinx. I, frankly speaking, my dear friends, I was not knowing before this judgment what is this word. I have to go to the dictionary to find out what this judgment means, order means, this word means. This word inscrutable face of Sphinx means you are not able to understand anything. So Honorable High Court says writing the word approved in a sanction by a competent authority under section 151 is like a inscrutable face of the Sphinx. That is, it is a totally unfathomable approval. Unfathomable means inexplicable, beyond comprehension, incomprehensible, sir. So the Honorable High Court has come down and heavily, I believe, that both recording of reasons should be accurate and both approval giving should be accurate. Then only reopening will be called as valid. When I read this order, I also kept in my mind, my friends at this place would be aware who are viewing this seminar, sir. There has been a order of the Supreme Court which came last year in the case of New Delhi Television Limited, which is reported in 424 ITR, page number 607. Honorable Supreme Court decision authored by Justice Deepak Gupta, his lordship as he then was, in the case of NDTV versus Income Tax Department, citation 424 ITR 607. And in the third point, which the Honorable Supreme Court framed for itself, the impact of violation of principle of natural justice in a 148 proceeding is dilated and discussed in that Honorable Supreme Court order. I always say, as a student of law, when we read a judgment, then that portion of the judgment of Supreme Court in NDTV, to my understanding, is of very great importance. That how far principle of natural justice play a pivotal, significant, and a crucial role in any proceeding under Section 148 of the Income Tax Act 1961. And there also in the Supreme Court order, one can find the bench of division bench of Justice Nageshwar Rao and Justice Deepak Gupta has very clearly held that violation of natural justice by the income tax authorities in a framing of 148 assessment will jeopardize the entire process. So I believe, sir, Sinfonia Limited order is a very important decision on these bullets. That is section 148 principles, valid approval and sanction, validity of reasons and reopening to be seen with reference to reason recorded, and writ scope. And before I part with this, my case law study, just I want to highlight one more important finding of this order, which I very much liked, sir, and very much useful to my understanding is, as correctly argued by Mr. Kocher, the counter affidavit and the submissions made across the bar cannot be used to sustain the impugned actions. The Honorable Delhi High Court says, friends, very important line, please note, the order recording reasons and order granting sanction should speak for themselves. They cannot be supplemented or they cannot be supplanted or improvised. And therefore, the Honorable Delhi High Court refers to these two Supreme Court decisions, Gordon Das and Mohinder Singh Gill. So this is again a very important landmark order, friends. I believe many of you will note this order and this can help us. Definitely, there can be a different school of thoughts. We can have some divergence of perceptions. I always welcome it and humbly take it on board. I'm not saying this is the only school of thought. There can be a second school of thought also. So, but this, I agree with this school of thought by Justice Sikdar in this case of Sinfonia Limited. And I believe this is the right approach, that 148 is not a normal proceeding. 148 is an extraordinary proceeding. And revenue has to be very, very careful in launching any 148 proceeding because they are extraordinary in nature. They are not normal security assessment. And I may tell many people may wonder whether in Sinfonia case, before reopening, whether prior scrutiny assessment was taken place. It was a case where only written was filed, and it was a case of reopening after written filing. So that is how Sinfonia Limited may be appreciated, please, sir. Now I come, Sharmaji, if I have time, I can take the next case study and the last case study of the day. That is in the case of Krishna Devi, sir. Because this is a very important order, Sharmaji, and again, I was associated with this judgment in the ITT level. And when the revenue has gone to the High Court has dismissed this appeal. And this order, Sharmaji, of Krishna Devi, I am telling you, Sharmaji, that this is a landmark order, truly a landmark order of Delhi High Court on the off-quoted, or you say hyperbole subject of penny stock. You know now this phrase has become hyperbole. I saw a lot of assessments where department has used this phrase that assessee has been beneficiary of alleged bogus penny stock. Now, without understanding what is penny stock, we go to the conclusion and inference that assessee is beneficiary of penny stock. This is something which is always confusing to me, sir, in a humble sense. But Delhi High Court has tried to shed light on the confusion, sir. I believe it is the first order of the Delhi High Court which is favoring the assessee on the subject. Although before this, there were 2-3 orders which were against. One was Udit Kalra, another was Suman Podar. And now this order has come. It is virtually a third or fourth order to my memory, Krishna Devi's. It is reported in 431 ITR, page number 361. It was a department appeal in the High Court, and department challenged the order of the tribunal where additions of so-called penny stocks were deleted and written income was restored. And Delhi High Court department's appeal have been now dismissed also. So it's a very speaking order. Now I will take my viewers directly to the striking features of this case, sir. Because lot of case, Sharmaji, this season also we will have 148 on so-called penny stock. I believe Sinfonia plus Krishna Devi is a power pack combo, sir. Are you noting my point, sir? Sinfonia plus Krishna Devi is equal to landmark, something, it's a complete solution to your problem, sir. Anyhow, what are the facts in this case which are noted in the Honorable High Court order? Because unless we appreciate the foundational facts, we cannot appreciate the ratio decidandi. Now, this case was again assessed under 143(1). Scrutiny assessment was done under CAS. Assessee earned long-term capital gain from 2-3 companies. Sharmaji, the script which were involved in this case was Goldline International. And other companies were, there is one company Goldline and another is Esteem Bioorganic. And third is Render. There are 3 companies probably which I recall. One Esteem Bio was there, sir, and second is this Goldline, and third is Renders. So these were the companies, Sharmaji, which were again featuring in those 82 company list of penny stock, so-called penny stock companies. Now, our assessee, this assessee, sir, purchased these shares online, sold the shares online. Now, this is a very important fact to be noted of this case. The shares were purchased online. Am I with you? These were online purchase. These were shares were purchased on the stock exchange, sold on the stock exchange. Now, 3 companies, Esteem Bio, Render Solution, and Goldline. Companies also very important. Script of these 3 companies. Now, primary allegation of the department and the case set up by the department before the High Court by our friend Joab Hussain Saab. Now, he says that the ITT order is a wrong order or it needs to be reversed and addition made by the AO should be sustained, restored. Now, the ground taken by the revenue, Sharmaji, in this case before the High Court are these which are appearing on my screen. Mr. Hussain argues that in cases relating to long-term capital gain in penny stocks, there may not be direct evidence in the hands of the income tax authorities to establish that investment made in such companies was an accommodation act. Thus, he says the court should take aspect of human probabilities, you know, Sumati Dayal, into consideration that no prudent person will invest in such penny scripts. Now, consider the fact that the financials of these companies do not inspire the confidence, do not support the gains made by these companies in the stock exchange, as well as the fact that despite the notices issued by the AO, there was no evidence forthcoming to sustain the credibility of these companies. He argues, department argues, sir, that assessee is a beneficiary of long-term bogus and sham long-term capital gains, sir. Department submits further that AO made sufficient independent inquiry and analysis to test the veracity of the claim of the assessee respondent, and after objective examination of the facts and documents, the conclusion arrived by the AO in respect of transaction in question ought not to have been interfered with. Department Sharmaji relied upon 2 famous rulings cited by department, Sumati Dayal, which you all know. 218 ITR somewhere, 214 ITR somewhere.
Yeah,
Sumati Dayal and this Suman Poddar. Now, please note how Delhi High Court fulminated, or I say use the word, has rejected or has jettisoned the contentions of our learned revenue friend. Now, para 11 I am reading, sir, and this is very important, Sharmaji. On a perusal of the record, it is clearly discernible that in the instant case, the AO has proceeded predominantly on the basis of the analysis of financials of Goldline Company. His conclusion and findings against the respondent are chiefly on the strength of number one, extremely, what you say, astounding jump in the share prices of 4,800% within a span of 2 years, which is not supported by the financial of the script. On an analysis of the data obtained from the websites, the AO observed that this quantum leap in the share price is not justified. The tiered pattern of the company does not move along with the Sensex, and the financials of the company did not show any reason for extraordinary performance of its stocks. Now, what High Court says, sir, now please note it. We have nothing adverse to the comment on the above analysis, but we are concerned with the axiomatic conclusion. The word used by High Court is axiomatic conclusion drawn by the AO that respondent has entered into some kind of agreement to convert its own unaccounted money by claiming fictitious LTCG, which is otherwise exempt under 1038, in a pre-planned manner to evade taxes is the charge of the department. Now, High Court Judge Honorable Justice Sanjeev Narula, speaking for Delhi High Court, says that the AO has extensively relied upon the search and survey operations conducted by various investigation wing teams in Kolkata, Delhi, Bombay, Ahmedabad, which sets out the modus operandi adopted in the business of providing entries of bogus LTCG. However, the reliance placed on the report without further corroboration on the basis of the cogent material, High Court says, does not justify his conclusion that the subject transaction is bogus, sham, and nothing other than a racket of accommodation entries. We do notice that the AO made an attempt to delve into the question of infusion of respondents' unaccounted money, but he did not dive deeper into the issue, Notice is issued under 133(6)/131 were issued to Goldline, but nothing emerged from this effort. This is also a very important paragraph which I have marked, sir. The payment of these shares in question are made by Salasar Trading Company. Notice was issued to this entity as well. But when the notices were returned unserved, the AO did not take up the matter further. He thereafter simply proceeded on the basis of the financials of the script to come to this conclusion that assesses transactions are accommodation entries and fictitious in nature. The conclusion drawn by the AO that there was an arrangement to convert the unaccounted money, Sharmaji, by taking fictitious LTCG in a pre-planned manner, High Court says, is unsupported by any material on record. Are you noting these lies? It is unsupported by any material on record. This finding is thus purely on assumption, which is based on conjecture, which is made by the AO. Assumption-based conjecture made by the AO. This flawed approach, High Court says it is a flawed approach, forms the reason for the this flawed approach of the AO forms the reason for the Honorable ITAT to interfere with its finding, and therefore ITAT, after considering the entire conspectus of the case and evidence on the record, held that assessee respondent has successfully discharged its initial onus under Section 68 of the Act. Now, after all this, High Court also said, sir, this very important lines. The above noted factors, including the deficient inquiry conducted by the AO and lack of any independent source or evidence to show that there was some kind of agreement on connivance between the assessee and the other party, prevailed upon the ITAT to take a different view. Before us, Mr. Hussain has not been able to point out any evidence whatsoever to allege that the money has changed hands. Now, Sharmaji, very, very important line. Before us, Mr. Hussain has not been able to point out any evidence whatsoever to allege that the money has changed hand between the respondent and the broker or any other person, or further that some person provided the entry to convert unaccounted money for getting benefit of LTCG as alleged. In the absence of any such material that could support the case put forth by the income tax revenue, additions cannot be sustained, sir. Sir, here now they have come in where I have italicized. Suman Poddar and Sumati Dayal have also been distinguished. Are you noting it? So this is an order. I am saying in a very, very happy sense. I used to share the same view when I was speaking on this subject of penny stock in my seminars in 2015, Sharmaji, when first assessments took place, first lot of assessment. Are you remembering? Yeah. Now in 2021, 15th January 2021 is the date of Krishna Devi's order. Now you see, now I'm very happy to share one more aspect with you, Sharmaji, with my viewers, and then I will close, wind up. I have given a list of the cases, half dozen, these 6 cases, sir. Please note, these are the 6 cases where Hyderabad, Surat, Delhi, and Lucknow bench of the Honorable Tribunal, after Krishna Devi, following Krishna Devi, applying Krishna Devi, has fulminated and immolated the case set up by the Income Tax Department that there is no sustainable allegation of so-called penny stock. I have mentioned 6 orders: Delhi ITAT, Lucknow ITAT bench, Surat bench, and Hyderabad bench. So you may notice that Krishna Devi decision is so now popular with the tribunal benches, and so many decisions of so many benches of the ITAT across the country have come that yes, department has wrongly made the addition under 1038 on alleged penny stock. Are you with me, sir?
Yes, sir.
और अभी आप देखिए, I say in lighter size, अभी बहुत सारे लोगों का तो केस पेंडिंग भी है अपील में. बहुत सारा लोग, I say in English that many cases, if you take a stock inventory, many cases are pending at the appellate level. Many cases might have gone to Vivad se Vishwas, and many cases are in the pipeline of reopening, sir. So it depends upon one's sense of what you say, guts to take a view. But I have given you sufficient material, I believe. Now, Krishna Devi case and Sinfonia Limited case, I believe these are the 2 landmark decisions of Delhi High Court, sir. But if you keep these 2 decisions on one hand, and if you keep the quality of the reopening which is coming to my table in this season, sir, I believe they are lacking somewhere, sir. So, sir, I believe now 8 o'clock is there. Some viewers can have some queries, and some you can open their mic. I can interact with them. Whatever little and limited I know, I will. And I'm thankful to Chamber of Tax Consultants again for making me part of this colloquium. And I always feel that the people of Chamber of Tax Consultants are highly erudite, and I share wisdom and knowledge from your side, sir. Thank you, all of you, sir.
But sir, there is a request from my members, and I also endorse that request. And my request to you that we can have part 2, sir, because you have an ocean of knowledge. You have an ocean of knowledge, and we have to extract more from you, sir.
I will definitely have a part 2, sir. No problem. You are a great friend, and see, our Lord Krishna used to say you have to be very much loyal to our good friends. I am a small Sudama. Yeah. You are for me a Krishna. No. So I would definitely try to discharge my onus in that regard.
Yes, sir. So we'll fix up the date. I will talk to you and
not an issue,
inform to the members. So,
but you have also given me promise that you will make me life member of the organization.
Oh, sure, sir.
And you will make me not this like this. You will take a proper check from me. Sorry.
No problem. So before, so we can go to the question. Before that, I recognize the presence of honorable member, tribunal member Prashant Maharshi, sir. Thank you so much for attending the webinar. Sanjay, you are with me? Or Deepesh?
Yeah, Sharmaji.
There was a question from Maharshi, sir, also. Can you just find out? I was just reading, but I'm not getting it.
Yes, it is in chat box, Sharmaji.
Deepesh bhai, you can read.
Yeah, the question is whether SSC can get a second innings. Further to that, in which circumstances Gujarat High Court in 142 Taxman 414 even denied second innings to the SSC. So can we take it as a principle that none of the party, that is assessing officer or SSC, has a second innings in assessment proceedings?
Yes, Deepesh bhai, I humbly agree with my lords that see, what happens is, as a student of law, I can submit that when it comes to the what you say na, that there is a equal treatment under Article 14 of Indian Constitution. I am a student of Constitution. So if there is a one school of preposition for the revenue, it cannot be different yardstick for the assessee. That is my humble take, and I so humbly concur with honorable sir.
Second query is that whether not granting an opportunity of hearing in faceless assessment.
But sorry, one thing more, Deepesh bhai. See, definitely both revenue and assessee cannot be given benefit of their own laxity. It is absolutely clear law to my mind. But having said that, there can be a different criteria for those cases where there is a botched up inquiry by the department, then definitely, although in my humble opinion, I have already said if there is a, if there has to be done, there has to be something which is to be done by the revenue in the first instance, that is at the assessment stage, and it is not done, then revenue cannot say that, should be given second inning. So it should be a at par treatment for both the things.
No, but you said what if the botched up thing then?
Then botched up thing, Dipesh bhai, then definitely I have already said it. I just recalled myself that if department has failed to carry out its duties which they were required to carry out in the first instance, sir, then Dipesh ji, the assessment should be quashed or addition should be deleted and no second inning should be given. That is the Gujarat High Court 251 ITR I cited.
Okay. So, okay. Now, second query is that whether not granting an opportunity of hearing in faceless assessment is an irregularity or illegality.
Sir, again, brother, sharpest of sharpest minds will have Ashok ji, a different kind of what you say, Dipesh bhai, humbly speaking, a different opinion on this. But I will definitely keep my view. See, if principle of natural justice as such oral hearing granted is not given and you are agitating it in a writ court, are you noting my point, sir? Then definitely the fitness of things and prudence will command the matter to be set aside. But if you are now you compare it and just oppose, brother, you have passed first appeal stage and now you are at the doors of the honorable tribunal, and where after 5-6 years or 10 years now the tribunal on the part of howler is a word mistake on the part of the revenue sets aside the case. That is wrong. That is my humble opinion. Are you getting my point? So I will answer it like this. If you are, it depends upon the proceedings in which you are agitating this issue. If you are in writ proceeding, then maybe set aside is the can be the norm. But if you are, Dipesh bhai, in the appellate channel, to my mind, as you recall, now set aside power has been taken away from first appeal also after 2001. So in my opinion, then addition should be deleted. That is my case, Dipesh.
Okay.
Or quashing of assessment should take place.
There are few more questions. This is from Mr. Vasishtha Narayan Dubey. To what extent it can be said that if written show cause not issued post the assessee given the opportunity to submit or respond the same, it is sufficient as opportunity of being heard. No oral hearing as such required under scheme of faceless assessment.
See, I will tell my viewers, the learned viewer, two decisions he should read. And one is the page by 211 ITR, I'm sorry, 211 ITR 472. And second, brother, 316 ITR page 1. Are you noting? 211 ITR 472 and second 316 ITR page 1. Now, what are these orders? One is Patna High Court full bench order and second is Delhi High Court Moser Baer order. Now, second was a transfer pricing assessment, may I tell you, in Income Tax Act. And first was also an income tax penalty. Now, in first, Sharmaji, what was happening? The case of penalty was there, assessing, pleaded to the AO, ki, "Sir, please give me an oral hearing." AO said, "No, we have already taken your written reply in Patna case that we will not give you, Dipesh ji, any oral hearing." Can you please see the Patna High Court full bench speaking from Justice Ganguly as he then was? He says even department is obliged to ask the taxpayer whether you want to have oral hearing or not. They should not wait for the assessee to come forward and ask for oral hearing. Now, they say it is not the thing that having taken written representation on record, the AO can say in income tax law, he will not give you an oral hearing. That is Patna High Court full bench. Now, same view have been echoed by the Honorable Delhi High Court Division Bench in Moser Baer case, where again Justice Rajiv Shikhar Saab was the author. He says transfer pricing assessments, oral hearing has to be given. Are you noting my point, sir? So yes. The same analogy, brother, will apply to section 144 capital B. I am very consciously saying this. So there can be no if and but. There can be no whimsical discretion that in these cases they should give that. Now you see how principal CIT is forming its subjective opinion that in these cases oral hearing is to be given. I'm sorry, I am at a loss to understand this. But that is something which I am pained.
So that is completely that the officer who is assessing has no right, but the principal commissioner has a right. That is
see brother, it is my right first na. Baba, आप मेरा income vary कर रहे हैं, मेरा demand निकाल रहे हैं.
No, even the permission is to be the whether it is to be given is to be told by principal commissioner.
मैं समझता हूँ आप क्या कह रहे हैं. आपका कहना है किसी, आपका कहना है मिस्टर गोयल, मैं आपका कहना ये है कि वो मियाँ बीबी राजी तो क्या करेगा काजी, ऐसा कुछ कहना चाहते हैं आप क्या? मतलब you see, I am a person who is to be assessed. On lighter side, things are different, and a person who is assessing me. Now it is at least Dipesh, the person whose written income is varied. Adverse civil consequences are created. Adverse civil consequences, that is in form of demand. And secondly, brother, serious penal consequence is also there. These two things, civil consequence adverse and penal consequence, brother, demands oral hearing must in every case, even if 1 rupee addition is made. Are you getting my point?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm still not confident कि when this faceless appeal will take up, and what you say ना कि वो अभी चालू हो जाएगा तो first appeal वाला faceless appeal तो कितना में early hearing देगा, जैसे अभी अनीश भाई पहले बता रहे थे. तो मुझे लग रहा है let us keep our fingers crossed.
No, what Dipesh is saying, sir, is though the assessing officer feels that notice hearing.
Sharma ji, I am sorry. I am again sorry. See, it is not the assessing officer who is again. It is the prerogative of the assessee to take ना. बाबा आप मेरा vary कर रहे हैं income, मेरा return
नहीं
income.
वो तो है ही.
आपका बात भी सही है. आपका कहना यह है कि Mr. Goyal, it is whose prerogative and locus standi to check whether oral hearing is deserving or not.
No, what he is saying is, sir, though suppose assessing officer who is assessing you feels that in such case,
sir, it is a team-based assessment. They will say कि बाबा हमें, then they will come up with this say कि साहब ये तो team-based assessment है. This is a team-based assessment.
That is what, yeah.
See, I am cutting it short. I am saying if I am a taxpayer, sir, you are varying my return income to 100 times and 1,000 times, and still you are saying I do not deserve oral hearing. I am sorry.
No, I know, sir. You cited your that writ petition.
Well, how can it be so that in a case where addition to the variation of 600 times in the written income is made, Dipesh ji, and still you want some other justification for oral hearing? I don't know, sir. What can be that?
I know, you are right.
Well, there cannot be anything rational in my mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
So there's one more question for that Krishna Devi online purchase. In Krishna Devi, there was online purchase and sale. So whether that will apply equally for offline purchase and sale?
Sir, again, because the ratio we have, when we started the page by, we have tried to understand what is ratio of an order. I believe when Justice Narula has written this order, he says some kind of inquiry, some kind of corroborative material at the command of the department to say assessee has in fact taken an accommodation entry or assessee is beneficiary of fictitious capital gain. Where is that material forthcoming, Dipesh ji? I am asking a question to myself. Is it the investigation wing itself a material? Answer is no. Is it that so-called statement which is not tested on natural justice? Is it a material sufficient in itself? Answer is no. Is it a material that high price rise has done? High Court has rejected it. Aapke samne hai. I have read it. Therefore, I have read it. Otherwise, I would not have read it. My habit is not reading judgments. But now you see what is left to be hold against the assessee. Definitely, I will say there are some school of thought where the person can feel on, say, ground of suspect or on a ground of probability or on a ground of perception that assessee has taken some bogus gain. But see, I believe again suspicion and all those things have to be differentiated, and therefore Bombay ITAT has rightly deleted addition in long-term capital gain in so many cases in last 3 months or 6 months.
Yes, sir. The Mahavir Singh one order.
Whether it be Manoj Agrawal जी का भी bench पे बहुत सारा order है sir. Manoj Agrawal जी का, he's an accountant member, learned accountant member, और भी बहुत सारे members का. Shamim Yah साहब का भी अभी एक order मैंने पढ़ा था. Then CN Prasad Saab has also written. I believe almost labyrinth of the judgments are there from Bombay bench. Although Krishna Devi has vindicated that stand, Sharma ji.
Yes, sir. एक महावीर सिंह साहब का है.
Yes. But I'm going more on the see. There is a judgment. Although I could not discuss it, you may read it. This Bhupender Mehta's order of Bombay High Court. Although this was a case of 125%. To be paid in VSV or 100% Dipesh ji. But there is a paragraph in this order because it was a case of underlying case of penny stock, so-called penny stock. Honorable bench of Deshmukh Saab, the presiding judge of the Bombay High Court tax bench, has said that entire case set up by the revenue is conjectural.